Welcome to the Balance Blueprints podcast, where we discuss the optimal techniques for finances and health, and then break it down to create an individualized and balanced plan. I'm your host, Justin Gaines, here with my co-host, John Prober. In this episode, John and I are going to discuss the pitfalls that a lot of people think the wealthy use and what it means to be wealthy when you're budgeting versus what we talked about in our first financial episode about budgeting. Hope you enjoy the episode. Effectively, what I'm talking about here is, and I was definitely guilty of doing this when I was growing up, and I hear my friends do it, and I hear clients do it all the time, and it's the misconception that if you're wealthy, you don't have to think about your budget, and you don't have to think about money. You want to have so much money that you don't have to think about it. And the reality is that will never happen. The way you become wealthy and you have less stress about money is because you have a system in place. And not that you constantly think about money, but that you have a way to know where every dollar's going every single time. So in that first episode, we talked about a net zero budget. And that just means that every dollar is going somewhere. But we also gave a tip in there that I've talked to clients since releasing that other episode, and they've been having some issues with it. So the tip was, instead, if you don't want to get into the nitty gritty of this dollar amount goes to food and this dollar amount goes to gas because your gas bill and your food bills fluctuate, have a credit card that okay, I can spend $1,000 a month on this credit card. And then you just make sure that credit card balance never exceeds $1,000. Well, the issue that my clients have been having, and I'll be honest, there's been times that I fall into this with my own budgeting, is we fall into believing that myth that we don't have to think about our budget. We don't have to think about it because we know that we have $1,000 there and it'll all work out. Because you have a system in place, you sat down, you did your budget, and you know that you can spend $1,000 on there. So that's all you think about, and you just keep going. And so what ends up happening is you don't end up actually re-looking at your budget and verifying that your numbers match each category. And then you're 3 months in and you're running a credit card balance or you're behind on a payment because you wanted to believe that you didn't have to think about your budget. So the number one thing is, if you're going to make a budget, that's step one. Step two is whatever frequency the budget is, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, typically that's going to line up with how frequently you get paid. But what you want to do is have it so that you have your idealistic numbers, and then you'll have a spreadsheet that you can write down or even just use Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, any of those, and just put in the actual numbers. And what this will allow you to do is go through and audit your credit card statement if you're using that hack, so that you can see that, oh, I bought this subscription and I'm not actually using it. Let me go in and cancel that. Because otherwise what ends up happening is we think that this app's going to change our life and help our productivity, and we buy it. And then we keep paying for it every single month, even though we really just wanted it for the 7-day free trial, and then we were going to cancel it, but we didn't. And now we've paid for 3 months of it because we didn't realize, because all we were looking at is, did my credit card stay within $1,000? And it did. So we're good. But we don't look at the actual expenses. And so that is a little bit of a pitfall that I do find my clients falling into, is just thinking that when you're wealthy or when you're set up financially, you don't have to think about your finances. And that is 100% not the case.
That's actually a great point too. I've never thought about it in terms of if you're just setting it at 1,000, but normally you would spend 900, you might actually be spending more because you're keeping your budget higher than it could be. So like you said, you're not double checking. It's almost like if I set it at 900, I'd be doing that very well, very easily as well. But because I just have this mindset of it's 1,000, I might find ways to spend an extra $100 or close to, so it's still under 1,000. Like you said, with those apps, if you don't need them, it's like, get rid of them, even if you're under budget.
Right. The reason I brought up the apps is I literally just did it last week, where at the beginning of the month, so I get paid once a month, and I get paid in the middle of the month. I should say the bulk of my income for the business comes in once a month, and it's in the middle of the month. But I know roughly what that is within the first 5 days of the month. So last week I was looking at that, and just looking at what I need to adjust each category to in order for everything to line up. And things were going to be tight. So I was like, oh man, where can I go to cut expenses? And that's where I went and said, you know what? I haven't done this in a while. Let me audit my credit card statement, because I use this credit card hack. So I said, let me audit this credit card statement. And I went through, and there was like 3 subscriptions on things that I've been telling myself, if you don't use this month, then you need to cancel this because you're not using it anymore. And I just wasn't doing it. I wasn't going in and canceling it. And so there was probably, $75, $80 of subscriptions that were just being wasted away, because with those in there, I was still staying below that minimum credit card balance, or the maximum credit card balance, really. And so by removing these, what it allows me to do is either spend more on something else, eat out, go do, buy some clothes, whatever the case is that I need. Or the other thing that I do is I have it set up in an Excel document where I have all my monthly payments in there, but then I have the credit card balance. And so if the credit card balance is below what that max is set at, so if the max is 1,000, but the balance is at 800, I have another box that, in order to stay at net zero, if I don't have to pay $1,000 on that credit card and I'm only paying 800, there's $200 that needs to go somewhere. It can't just sit there. Otherwise, we're no longer at a net zero budget. And so I have a separate box that's literally just called money to move. And it'll calculate out when I change all the numbers, and it'll say, okay, you have $200 that needs to move.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I either move that money into my 6-month savings, which is in its own separate account. I can have it, if you're using the CD laddering approach that we talked about last week, you can look at and move that money into the CD ladder, or you can just put it into an investment account. If you're trying to save up for a house, or you're trying to save up for a car, or any big payments, you can move it into there. But what you want to do is make sure that that $200 is earmarked for something, because otherwise it's just going to disappear, because you're going to spend it on something that you're like, oh, I have free $200. Which brings us to our next pitfall, is the reason why you want to have that net zero budget is a lot of times what you'll do is, if you know that you spent $200 less, you'll tell yourself, oh, I spent $200 less last month, I can buy this. And it's less than $200, the $50 purchase. And a lot of people will forget that they already used that justification, and now they use it 5 times or 6 times for $50 transactions. And now you overspent by $50 or $100 this month, and you justified it with because you were under $200 last month, but now you're going to be over by $100 this month. Accounting for that $200, you're over by really $300, so you're net over by $100. But that's why you want every dollar to have a job, is because if you don't do that, you start to rationalize, oh, I was under budget last month, it's no big deal. You end up overspending more than what you were under in prior months.
Yeah, you really got to stay on top of it. I actually just redid mine this morning too, very, very early morning. And it was for that same exact reason of, like, what things can I just neaten up? Like, I already do pretty good, so I just wanted to rank, like, okay, what things, like Audible, for example. I think it's a great, great tool, but I'm very behind on my monthly credits. So, like, I'd love to pause it. It's a different story, because if you get rid of your subscription, you lose all your credits.
I was just going to ask you, because I've been in that position before. I'm not in that position right now. I just had to buy credits on there. But I've been in that position before where I'm like, can I pause this? And what happens to the credits if I pause it? So that's unfortunate.
So, like, I've been putting off, but I need to go through and be like, this is embarrassing, but maybe I'm at 16. Like, what are 16 books on free credits like I can get, so then I have those locked in, they're in my library, and then I can cancel this for the time being. Smart. Just because it's once you start to fall behind that much, it's hard to catch up, and I don't want to lose those credits. But, like, that's a good one of, like, I need that one to be paused for a minute.
And you're at a threshold there too. If you have 16, I mean, you're talking, in theory, if you were to go and grab 16 books, you'd have a year's worth of reading.
Oh, easily. That's why I know it shouldn't be paused. Like, I'm past the point where, like, all right, we'll just read 2 or listen to 2 a month and catch up. It's like,
right.
pause it. But
yeah, you got to listen to one a week now, and
yeah.
even then you'll be caught up in 4 months.
Right, right.
Well, not
So,
even. You'll have the 4. You'll be caught up in 5 months
yeah,
because each month you're getting.
But yeah, I was going through, I was tidying, and then I'm also guilty of, I do more of the, like, what's my exact spending and what's my exact making. But I might actually try more of the credit card one, because I'm also guilty of, like, oh, say I don't watch the credit card $1,000 limit because I don't use that technique, but I might, because there might be an expense that would pull me over. But I'm like, oh, it's a one-time expense this month. It's like, oh, it's something I needed. Whereas if I had the $1,000 limit, I'd be like, even if it's something I needed, but this or that, I could be like, maybe push it to next month if I'm under. So that might maybe help more, because I fall into that downfall a lot of, like, I need this, it's a one-time thing. But then each month, I need this, it's a one-time thing, sometimes comes
Right,
up.
and it's like, oh, it's $10. It's funny. I never even thought about that the credit card technique allows you to also see, like, your rationalization there is it's only $10, but with this you would see, well, I've already spent 1,000.
Yeah.
So yes, it's $10, but what could I have cut out? And that's the other thing you could do, is you could go and say, like, okay, I want to buy this one-time thing, but that means I need to go and eliminate something, whether it's a
Right.
subscription, whether it's something that consistently comes up. Another thing that I found that's actually helped our budget for our household quite a bit is I just paid for DoorDash. It's like the premium, the $100 a year. And
Oh, I didn't even know they had a subscription, like yeah.
so they have a premium, and what it does is, so you pay the $100 and then you don't get the delivery charge. So we were getting hit with, or we would have been getting hit with $7 or $8 delivery charges
Every time.
every time. So I said, okay, even if we just use it for our groceries weekly, $7 times 52, that's $350 more. It's $350 plus dollars. I'm going to spend $100 to save $250. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, because then I also was like, okay, so if I spend the $100, even if we only use this twice a month, we've saved money. And that's just if we use it for groceries. That's not if we use it, okay, we don't want to go out tonight, but we also don't want to cook. Let's order something in. And what I've found is, so in the past, our grocery bill, we would be over 1 week. And then the other, in a month, we'd be over 1 week, pretty much dead on 1 week. And the other 2 weeks, we would be under our budget. With doing this, we've been under budget every week for the past 6 weeks. And that's with tipping the driver, with the fees. And I think what it is we're no longer buying stuff accidentally that's already in the house, because you're literally placing your grocery order while you're walking around the house and meal planning. And I think that's the key part too, is we meal plan.
Yeah.
When we do, and that was before, even when we weren't using DoorDash, we were meal planning. We literally sat down and we would look at our calendars and we'd say, what night are we out and not going to be there? Okay, let's make sure that we put that on the calendar that we're out. What days are we going to be here? Let's plan out meals that we're going to eat together. And then we grab some lunches and then overcook meals so that we have that for lunches as well. And so that's a big part to staying on budget when it comes to grocery bills. But I think we're just not buying the extra stuff.
Well, you're not walking through the aisles too and seeing, like, oh, I really want this, or look at the marketing on that, or there's a deal on that. I don't need it, but I mean, that's probably huge.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that we just grab those other things, because we also lump into our grocery budget. So there's 2 people in the house. We spend $200 a week on groceries. That's what's budgeted. But that $200 a week also includes, your toilet papers, her makeup, not all of her makeup, but like the everyday using stuff.
Yeah,
Obviously, the really expensive stuff we don't put in there because we'd be over $200 every time. But whole nother story there. But the basic stuff, your lipsticks, your body wash, all of that stuff we include in our grocery haul. When we need to get a new shower liner to replace the one that's in the bathroom, which we probably do every 4 to 6 months, we take that out of the grocery bill as well. So like, those
you guys
things
are $50 each a week?
No, $100 each a week. $200 grocery bill. So $100 each a week.
Oh, $200 a week.
A week. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 200 a week, $100 each.
Yeah.
And so that's the number we use for the budget. And then, like I said, we've been under almost every week while using DoorDash, which is not what I expected. I honestly expected us for it to be a little bit more expensive, but we were getting back the time. And so a lot of times, like, the 2 to 3 hours that we were going to end up spending grocery shopping, we use that to clean up the house, or we use it. A lot of times I'll use it to work. There's all sorts of stuff that we just, there's times we just sit and relax because we have such busy schedules with our work schedules that it makes sense. But it's honestly been mind blowing to me that we've been able to stay on budget. Ultimately, what we've been under budget the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've paid for the subscription for the year.
Yeah. No, that's definitely valid. Like you said, your time alone, I mean, the amount it saves there. I also didn't know DoorDash did groceries. I thought it was like just Instacart, so that's interesting.
Yeah, Uber Eats does it as well. I think I ended up using DoorDash. So I was looking into DoorDash for our liquor store and using that. So I was looking into DoorDash quite a bit. And then it was one of those things that we were using, we were going direct to Target for their delivery. We were going through Uber Eats sometimes and through DoorDash other times and like shopping for the deals. And then I finally was just like, you know what? I bet if we just consolidated all of our purchasing power into one app, we would probably be rewarded for that. And that's ultimately what we did, is we just said, let's use this one and let's do it. And it just makes it, I think the other benefit there is there's been weeks in the past where, we don't want to do grocery shopping on Monday, or on Sunday, so we'll do it on Monday. And then we don't do it on Monday, or one of us has an event. So then it's like, okay, we'll sit down, we'll do it on Tuesday. And you end up eating out those nights and you end up spending more money. And so this just allows us to not ever have to worry about that. At the most relaxed and laid back we've ever been about it was we didn't get around to doing it on Sunday. It was a really nice Sunday. We were doing a bunch of stuff around the house, trying to get things out for spring and get the patio set up. And so it just kind of slipped our minds. And so we ended up putting the order in at like 8:30 at night, but scheduled it to be delivered while I would be in the office, the home office, the next day. And so, boom, it's done. And we took the 20 minutes of meal plan and prep and do everything, and then it gets delivered, and I step out of the office to walk around a little bit and put groceries away, and then we're back on track, and we didn't have to eat out that night.
Well, that's a great case of an app work, the subscription doing well. But so then what else? We got, you've labeled a couple or listed a couple downfalls. Any other ones that come to mind?
Those are the big ones that I feel are very easy to fall into. The main one is that mindset of just, and like I said, growing up, I had that total mindset. I was like, I'm going to be wealthy, so I never have to think about finances. I never have to think about my money. I can just buy whatever I want. And it's so backwards. It's just so not even true. And the crazy part too is I find for myself and even with my clients, when you start budgeting, you start investing and putting yourself up for retirement and doing all these things, you end up not wanting to spend money on all the BS because you just see how much it's helping you and how much it's growing to and how much less stress you will have because you have your 6-month savings now and because you're not in credit card debt. You're just like, wow, this is a much less stressful life. And you want to be in that space. You're like, you know what? I don't actually need that, so I'm not going to buy it. I don't absolutely love this piece of clothing in the store, so I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you can't buy yourself gifts and you can't, splurge here and there, but it's making it so it's a splurge here and there, not just a constant, I feel like it, or I'm depressed, so I'm going to go to a Shein haul or a Temu haul or a Amazon haul. I'm going to go spend $100 and, feel better about it. That emotional coping mechanism changes and you start to be like, you know what, that might make me feel good right now, but it's going to make me financially stressed in 2 weeks when I start doing my budget again and reevaluating things. So let me just not do this. Let me go do something else in its place.
Which is the importance of doing that budget, because if you never check it, you never get stressed. So you just keep spending.
Well, where you get stressed is you can't, with the credit card technique, where you end up getting stressed is if you're not constantly staying on top of it, you can't cover the credit card payment.
Yeah, that.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have the money to cover this credit card payment. How did this happen? What happened here? And hopefully you don't justify it and say, oh, well, it'll only be a little bit of interest because it's one time, no big deal. Hopefully what you do is that balance is going to roll over onto your credit card statement. And it's going to tell you what the balance is. And then the interest is going to go in there. So if you had a $1,000 budget, you now decrease that $1,000 by whatever your rollover balance was, plus whatever the interest was. And now you only have $600 this month, or this, whatever the interval is to spend. And if you do it that way, you won't end up in the hole as much or as far.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing the budget, what I've seen clients do is they go, oh, I spent $1,200 this period. They pay the $1,200 and now they miss their car payment because they had the money in the bank account there that day. And so they paid the credit card, but then they realized, oh, shoot, I had a paycheck coming in 2 weeks. I had the car payment coming between now and that next paycheck. I just paid that credit card and now the money's not there for the car payment to come out. Yeah. Now you have all missed payments, which is impacting your credit score, and everything just starts to snowball, and everything starts to go downhill really, really quickly with that snowball effect. And so doing the budget allows you to see the timing of payments and the timing of income so that you can line those things up and make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation. Because I've done reviews with clients where they don't think they have any money and they think they're broke. And the reality is that if they adjust how they're paying things, they would not be in that situation. But the problem is that they've done out their budget on paper and it says they can spend $1,000 every period. And they're doing this. They're paying the $1,000 from one paycheck. And then their rent comes due between that point at which they pay the credit card and their next paycheck. And so now they have to call their landlord and say, hey, I'm going to be a couple days behind on rent. I get paid this day. And they get paid and they pay that money. And so, it's just that awkwardness between you and the landlord, and you probably get hit with a late fee. Yeah. And then they're doing the same thing with their car payment. And it's not an issue of not having the money. It's an issue of the timing.
Yeah.
And so if you know the timing, you sit down, you see those things, you can say, okay, I can spend $1,000 per period, per month, whatever, on the credit card, but I need to pay $250 out of every paycheck so that I have the timing line back up on these. Or I need to pay $500 out of this paycheck, and then this one's going to take the car payment, and then I'm not going to pay anything because the rent's going to come out, and then my fourth paycheck in the month, or if you're getting paid weekly, that fourth paycheck, that's what's going to cover the other half of $1,000 on the credit card.
Yeah.
Because of timing. So it's not uncommon actually for timing issues to cause budget issues and make you feel like you don't have any money. And it's not because you're living above your means, you're living right at your means, which, if you're using a $0 budget, that's where you're going to be. But your timing is all messed up. And so if you get the timing right, then you'll have it where that $0 budget falls right into place.
Yeah, that's a good thing to look at too. Oh, good. I think those are some good downfalls. Anything else?
Those are the big ones. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. So, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And until next time, stay balanced.
Thanks for listening to our podcast.
We hope this helps you on your balance freedom journey.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below.
Until next time, stay balanced.